Okay, here we are. I am narrating what we got going on here. This is what we're doing. We're playing Resident Evil Biohazard. I want you, Gemini, to walk me through the game. I set the difficulty on easy, and I just hit start.
Announcement.
So here we go.
The ads you hear that are played by Google are not based on your activity while you were signed into Google. Instead, they are based on general factors, like the time of day or the city or country you're in.
That's awesome. Starting on easy is a great way to experience the story and atmosphere without getting too overwhelmed. I'd be happy to guide you
Hey Google, turn volume to 6.
through. You're starting with the guest house. Part 1, Finding Mia. 1. Check the car. You start in the dilapidated driveway. Look at the passenger door of the car to find a note from Mia. 2. Go inside. Head up the steps and into the guest house. It's creepy. 3. Explore the living room. Look around the first room. You'll find a flashlight on a table, which you'll need. 4. Find the hallway. Go through the door into the main hallway. 5. The basement. You'll find a locked door and a staircase going down. Head down to the flooded basement. 6. Find Mia. You'll find a locked room with a mattress. The door is slightly ajar. Squeeze through the small opening to find Mia. Key action: the first encounter. Mia is not quite herself. After a brief interaction, she'll attack you. The first fight on easy mode, you can be pretty aggressive. When she first attacks, try to block. Hold the left shoulder button / trigger to reduce damage. You won't have a weapon yet, so just try to dodge and survive until a cutscene happens. Get the axe. After the cutscene, where you get thrown through a wall, look on the floor for the axe. This is your first weapon. Defeat Mia. Now you can fight back. Since you're on easy, just use the axe and aim for her head for maximum damage. She will go down relatively quickly. The phone call. Once she's down, the phone in the hallway will ring. Go back to the hallway and answer it. Next steps: escaping the guest house. 1. Hallway door. After the phone call.
You know what? I appreciate your advice, but I think the way I'm going to approach this is just to play the game, and when I come to a spot that I can't figure out, then I will kindly ask your advice.
That sounds like the perfect way to play a horror game. Exploring and figuring things out on your own is where the real fun and fear is. I'll be right here, standing by. Whenever you get stuck, run into a tough boss, or can't find the next key, just ask. Good luck, and try not to let Jack Baker catch you.
Yeah. Yeah, no spoilers. I don't know who that is. I'm totally unaware of the storyline. Who's Jack, by the way?
That's an excellent question. Jack is one of the main antagonists you'll encounter in the game. Without giving away any spoilers about the plot, here's what you should know about him right now, based on your current location, the guest house, and the dinner cutscene you're about to experience. He is the patriarch, head of the family, of the Baker family, who owns the house and the surrounding property. He is incredibly strong, relentless, and seems to be nearly impossible to kill. He will be your primary threat and a recurring stalker as you try to explore the house and find a way out. Basically, he's the terrifying person who has you trapped, and his motto seems to be, "Welcome to the family, son." Keep an eye and ear out for him. He will show up when you least expect it.
That's interesting. Well, matter of fact, maybe I do want some spoilers. Could you just tell me the story? Because I don't mind just hearing the story and playing it through.
Since you're ready for the spoilers, here is the full story of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which explains who the Bakers are, what Mia was doing, and what is truly behind all the horror. Major spoilers ahead. The truth behind the horror. The core villain of the game is not the Baker family, but a bioweapon known as Eveline. 1. Ethan's quest and the infection. Ethan Winters is searching for his wife, Mia, who went missing 3 years ago. The letter he receives lures him to the Baker plantation in Dolby, Louisiana. The Mia he finds is infected with a type of sentient fungus/mold known as the mold, or E-type bioweapon. The mold gives the host regenerative abilities, but also makes them hostile and subjects them to the will of its master. When Ethan is attacked by Mia, and later by Jack Baker, he also becomes infected. This is actually why he can survive the horrific injuries he sustained, like losing and having his hand reattached with a staple gun. 2. The Baker family's tragic history. 3 years ago, Mia was actually a covert operative for a corporation that developed Eveline as a bioweapon, a molded child. Mia and another agent were transporting Eveline on a tanker ship. Eveline escaped containment and caused the ship to wreck near the Baker property. Jack Baker found Eveline and Mia and brought them into his home. Eveline, obsessed with having a family, immediately infected Jack, his wife Marguerite, and their son Lucas with the mold. The mold turned the Bakers into the monstrous, psychotic, and unkillable family Ethan encounters. Their daughter Zoe Baker is also infected, but resists Eveline's control enough to retain her sanity. 3. The Grand Illusion. The strange, hunched-over grandma figure you see in the house is actually Eveline herself. Because she is an accelerated, unstable bioweapon, her body is aging 25 times faster than normal. The little girl you sometimes see in visions is her mind's projection. Eveline is the one creating the various monsters, molded, you fight, and is driving the Baker family to kidnap and kill to add people to her family. 4. The end game. Zoe contacts Ethan to help find the ingredients to create a serum to cure the family. Ethan defeats Jack and Marguerite permanently by using the serum on a highly mutated Jack, and eventually travels to the wrecked ship where Mia tells him the full truth about her past and Eveline. Ethan travels through the salt mines and discovers the E-necrotoxin, a poison designed to kill Eveline. In the final confrontation, Ethan injects Eveline with the necrotoxin. The young girl illusion disappears, and her true form, the aging grandma, mutates into a gigantic final monster that Ethan must destroy. 5. The conclusion. After defeating Eveline, a military team arrives, led by Chris Redfield. Yes, that Chris Redfield from previous Resident Evil games, working for a new faction of Umbrella, to extract Ethan. Ethan and the cured Mia escape, and the whole terrifying ordeal is over. In summary, you are fighting a family who are themselves victims of a bioweapon, all orchestrated by a little girl with a terrifying obsession with having a family. Enjoy the rest of the game with this new, terrifying context.
That's interesting. I guess my only real question is, how did this little girl obsessed with having a family know to use this bioweapon in such a way?
That's the key plot point that shifts the story from a simple hillbilly horror to a deeper, more tragic Resident Evil narrative. The short answer is, Eveline was engineered to do exactly that. Here is the breakdown of how a little girl with a family obsession knows how to use a devastating bioweapon. 1. She was created, not born. Eveline, designated E001, was not a normal child who was infected. She was a bioorganic weapon, BOW, created by a shadowy crime syndicate called the Connections. Scientists took a human embryo and implanted it with the mutamycete or mold genome. She was cultivated to look like a 10-year-old girl, so she could be discreetly transported and used for infiltration. 2. Her abilities are her function. The mold was specifically developed to be a means of biological mind control. The goal of her creators was to make a weapon that could chemically transfer psychotropic compounds via skin-to-skin contact, putting the subject into a mentally suggestive state responsive only to the BOW. Therefore, Eveline's signature abilities, producing the mold, controlling the molded monsters, and hijacking people's brains to form a hive mind, are not a natural mutation, but her intended function as a weapon. 3. The family obsession is an emotional flaw. The tragedy is that while her powers are weaponized, her personality is that of a neglected and emotionally stunted child. Her creators succeeded in making her look and act human enough to blend in, but this backfired. Because she was raised in a sterile, experimental environment, she developed an intense human desire for a loving family. When she was taken away from her handlers, like Mia, and the ship crashed, she latched onto the Baker family as her only chance for that family. She then used her inherent weaponized abilities to force them to be the family she wanted, controlling their minds and making them immortal so they could never leave her. In short, she didn't learn how to use the bioweapon. She is the bioweapon, with a deadly emotional need.
I love how Resident Evil has such intricate and mind-bending stories.
I totally agree. That's one of the best things about the Resident Evil franchise. What started as a straightforward mansion zombie movie evolved into a huge, intricate web of shadowy corporations, tragic bioweapons, and complex family dramas, all tied together by the same relentless virus or mold. The story of Eveline and the Baker family in Resident Evil 7 is a perfect example of that. It's not just survival horror. It's a deep, mind-bending lore horror. Is there any other part of the Resident Evil mythology that you find particularly fascinating? Or are you ready to jump back into the house?
I wanted to listen to our beach day playlist.
I'm just curious, is this game tied to the narrative of the first, the games that came before it?
Maybe we try a less secluded beach?
That's an excellent question. And the answer is asterisk. Yes, it is definitely tied to the narrative of the first games. Resident Evil 7 was designed as a soft reboot, meaning it tells a brand new, self-contained story, the Ethan Winters arc, while still taking place in the same official universe and connecting to the existing lore in subtle and later very explicit ways. Here's how it connects. 1. The explicit tie, Chris Redfield and Blue Umbrella. The most direct connection comes at the very end of the game, which you've been spoiled on already. After you defeat the final boss, a helicopter arrives, and a familiar character, Chris Redfield, one of the original heroes from Resident Evil 1, emerges. The helicopter bears the famous Umbrella Corporation logo, but this time in blue, not red. This reveals a key development. The original evil Umbrella Corporation was dismantled, but a new anti-bioterror organization, nicknamed Blue Umbrella, was formed by former trusted Umbrella employees and is now working with organizations like the BSAA, Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, where Chris previously worked, to clean up the mess left by the past. 2. The weapon connection. The T-Virus legacy, the bioweapon behind the Bakers is different, but it's part of the same lineage of global bioterror. The mold, mutamycete that creates Eveline, was developed by a shadowy organization known as the Connections. The Connections is one of the many black market groups that sprang up after the original Umbrella Corporation's collapse, building new bioweapons based on the foundational research of the past. So while you aren't fighting the T-Virus or the G-Virus, you are fighting its horrific modern-day successor. 3. Subtle connections and Easter eggs. Throughout the house, you can find small nods to the wider lore, files and notes. You can find documents referencing the destruction of Raccoon City, the original location of the famous outbreak. Book titles, A Book in the House, is written by Clive R. O'Brien. a character from the spin-off game Resident Evil Revelations. In short, while you don't need to know the entire history of the previous games to enjoy RE7, the events in the game are the direct result of the bioweaponry chaos created by Umbrella and its rivals decades earlier.
Bring the car around, Jeeves. There is one more.
So recap the story again in a simple fashion about the main character. Give me the straightforward storyline of the main character.
There is one more.
You got it. Focusing only on Ethan Winters, here is the simple, straightforward recap of the story from your perspective in the game. Ethan Winters, the straight story. 1. The search. Ethan Winters receives a mysterious video message from his wife Mia, who has been missing for 3 years. The message directs him to a derelict plantation in Dolby, Louisiana. 2. The rescue and attacked Ethan arrives at the guest house, finds Mia locked up, and frees her. However, Mia immediately acts erratically, violently attacks him, and forces him to fight her. 3. The capture. After surviving the first encounter, Ethan is brutally ambushed by Jack Baker and knocked unconscious. 4. The captive. Ethan wakes up tied to a chair and is forced to endure the horrifying family dinner with the psychopathic Baker family, Jack, Marguerite, and Lucas. 5. The escape plan. Ethan escapes his restraints and receives a call from Zoe Baker, the daughter who is resisting the family's madness. Zoe explains that they are all infected with the mold and can be cured with a special serum. 6. The collectathon. Ethan's goal for most of the game becomes finding the necessary ingredients and keys, the 3 dog heads, various keys, the 2 serum ingredients, to create the cure and escape the property. 7. The revelation. Along the way, Ethan learns that Mia was transporting a powerful bioweapon named Eveline, and that Eveline is the one who infected and controls the Baker family. 8. The choice and final fight. After defeating Jack, Ethan has enough serum to cure only one person, Mia or Zoe. He chooses one, which leads to the final confrontation. He then discovers the source of the infection, Eveline herself. 9. The takedown and rescue Ethan acquires the E-necrotoxin, a specific poison, and uses it to defeat the monstrous final form of Eveline. He is then rescued by a military team, led by Chris Redfield. Simplified bottom line. Ethan went looking for his wife, got infected by a bioweapon, fought his way through a psychotic family, killed the bioweapon, and barely escaped with his life and his wife.
So he ends up curing his wife, but I'm curious, how is he and his wife connected to the overall storyline of the Resident Evil series?
That is the central point where the new story arc connects to the old. Here is how Ethan and Mia Winters are tied into the overall Resident Evil narrative based on the context provided. 1. Mia's past, the Connections. Mia Winters was a covert operative/agent working for the Connections, a shadowy crime syndicate involved in illegal biological weapons. The Connections is one of the many antagonist groups that arose in the power vacuum after the original Umbrella Corporation's collapse. They are dedicated to creating and trafficking BOWs. Mia's specific job was to be a handler for the bioweapon Eveline, E001, and posed as her mother during transport. This is the direct link to the outbreak, as Eveline escaped and caused the Baker incident. 2. Ethan's role, the unwitting hero. Ethan Winters is an ordinary civilian who was pulled into the world of bioterror purely by his connection to Mia. His story is important because he successfully defeated a major, modern BOW, Eveline, and lived to tell the tale, though he's later revealed to be infected with the mold himself. He is rescued by the returning classic character Chris Redfield, who is now involved with Blue Umbrella, showing that the good guys, like Chris, are now actively fighting the aftermath of the bioterror industry that Mia's former employer, The Connections, is a part of. 3. The Future Connection, the sequel. The Connections are further solidified by setting up the sequel. Ethan and Mia are placed under the protection of Chris Redfield and Blue Umbrella. The fact that they had a child, Rosemary Winters, after the incident makes the Winters family a focus for future threats, as their daughter is later revealed to be an important, special figure tied to the mold and its origins. Essentially, Mia brought the new era bioweapon, Eveline/mold, to the U.S., And Ethan was the ordinary man who stopped it, forcing the heroes of the old era, Chris Redfield / Umbrella, to get involved.
Yeah, but they're married, so like, what's that story all about?
That's where the personal drama of Resident Evil 7 comes from. The marriage between Ethan and Mia Winters is complicated by Mia's secret life. Here's the straightforward story of their marriage and its role in the game, based on the context. The deception Mia was an agent working for the Connections, the crime syndicate that created the bioweapon Eveline. Ethan, however, believes she worked for a different type of company. Some context suggests a trading company. The lie. Mia was secretly a handler and caretaker for Eveline, a job she kept hidden from Ethan. This deception is directly referenced when Mia, in a video, says, "You were right. I did lie to you." The motivation. Mia's job put her on the tanker where Eveline escaped, leading to Mia's infection and the subsequent events at the Baker house. Her lie is the fundamental reason Ethan is lured to the dangerous plantation. He is searching for the wife he believes is a missing, innocent victim. The conflict, Ethan spends the entire game obsessed with two things: surviving and getting answers from Mia about what happened and who she truly is. The resolution. In the end, the good ending, Ethan chooses to cure Mia, and they are rescued by Chris Redfield. Despite the horrific violence and the years of lies, they decide to start over, putting the traumatic past behind them. In essence, their marriage is the personal anchor for the entire story. Ethan's unwavering, almost blind, love and loyalty to his wife is the force that propels him through the danger and allows him to defeat the global bioweapon.
Where does he get the skills to do such endeavors? Is he like a police officer or something?
That is a very perceptive question, as Ethan's skills are intentionally vague at the start of the game. Based on the available information, here's what is known about Ethan's background and skills in Resident Evil 7. Profession. He is an ordinary civilian and a systems engineer working in Los Angeles. He is not a police officer or soldier. The intentional everyman. He was specifically designed by the creators to be a blank slate or everyman protagonist, which helps with player immersion in the new first-person perspective. The idea is that the player is meant to project themselves onto him, making his lack of combat training feel more realistic and the experience more terrifying. Source of skills. His survival skills are generally seen to come from two sources. 1. Immediate necessity. He is forced to quickly adapt to the horrifying situation, learning to craft items.
All right, that pretty much answers all my questions, and I think I'm ready to start playing the game.
That is fantastic. I'm glad I could fill in the blanks without spoiling the moment-to-moment experience for you. You now have a great foundation.
I will say this, though. It seems like this narrative in all the games and movies always repeats itself, where the movie or game or whatever it is starts out by a lie between two individuals, and then whether those be romantic individuals or whatever, that lie is exposed for one being a antagonist.
That's an incredibly insightful observation. You've hit on a core pattern that the Resident Evil franchise and much of the horror genre relies on. You're absolutely right. The narrative often starts with a lie or a secret between individuals, and that secret is what ultimately unleashes the horror, the power of deception in Resident Evil. While the monsters change, the foundation of betrayal remains a constant. 1. The original games, the T-Virus. The series begins with the lie of the Umbrella Corporation, which pretended to be a pharmaceutical company while secretly developing bioweapons. The initial heroes, Chris, Jill, etc., were betrayed by their own superior, Albert Wesker, who was secretly working for Umbrella all along. 2. Resident Evil 7, The Mold. This is perhaps the most personal example. The horror starts because of Mia's lie about her job, which brings the bioweapon Eveline into the world and ultimately drags her devoted husband Ethan into the nightmare. 3. Recurring theme. Whether it's a corporate cover-up, a scientific conspiracy, or a personal deception, the monster is rarely the first threat. The exposed lie is the catalyst that forces the protagonist to confront the true darkness, often turning a loved one, like Mia, or a trusted ally, like Wesker, into an antagonist, or at least a highly dangerous liability. It's a brilliant storytelling trick because it combines the fear of the unknown monster with the emotional pain of betrayal, making the struggle feel both physically terrifying and deeply personal. Do you think that element of betrayal makes the game scarier than just facing a straightforward monster?
Well, I'm writing a book, and that's intriguing to me because I feel like the characters that I'm writing for need to have the same dynamic. The dynamic where they're up against things that are intrinsically, I guess, terrifying and mortifying, and before they become completely petrified and stupefied by the situation, they have to work their cognitive abilities through an emotional gate, and their key, the key that really saves them, is their desire to survive the situation. Because, like most of us, when we have a desire to see something through, it's a combination of what's happening to us in our discipline in the moment that creates the ultimate scenario in this situation. So I guess in my book there'll have to be some similarities. Anyways, I'm going to end this video and then make a different live video with the game because this was a pretty long live video. I didn't mean to make it this long. So. Hey Google, pause music.
Can't tell from this picture. Can't tell.